I believe that Jesus would approve gay marriage, but I'm not. That's just my own personal belief. Yes. Yeah. I think Jesus would encourage any sort of love affair if it was honest and sincere, and was not damaging to anyone else. And I don't see that gay marriage damages anyone else.
And welcome back to The Wrap. That was former peanut farmer and President Jimmy Carter, an evangelical Christian who teaches Sunday school on, quote, what would Jesus do? Not to be confused with what would Brian Boitano do when it comes to same-sex marriage. Despite President Carter's position, several states are rebelling against the Supreme Court decision that legalized gay marriages. In Decatur County, Tennessee, the clerk and 2 employees, which amounts to the whole office, resigned rather than issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Some states are fighting back, taking steps to end state involvement in issuing marriage licenses. In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, who will be a guest on the Steve Malzberg show on Sunday, good stuff, has signed Monday, thank you, Brick, has signed a law that exempts ministers from performing same-sex marriages if it violates their religious beliefs. Is this just the beginning of efforts to block same-sex marriage, just as the Supreme Court ruling legalizing abortion led to states stepping in to limit abortion, Mr. Unger?
There's nothing I enjoy more than a good civil disobedience fight. It's going to be a blast, but I got news for anybody who tries. You lose at the end of the day. You will not succeed. The Supreme Court has spoken, like it or not. It is what it is. You can waste your time. You can create a fuss, quit your job if that makes you happy, but I'm afraid it's here to stay.
It's a symbolic gesture, you think, at this point?
At best.
Okay. Joe?
Well, I'm glad that they're resigning rather than staying in their positions. They're certainly entitled to do that. That's the way to express their views on this. You know, I'd argue that same-sex marriage is ruining traditional marriage. Traditional marriage, I think, has been ruined since no-fault divorce was legalized, and it's been ruined since people started to live past age 35. Because once you made that commitment when you knew you were going to croak before you were 30, before you're 40 rather, then you wanted to get married because you wanted to have sex, pass on your DNA and all that before you died of a toothache or some sort of, you know, stubbed your toe and got an infection. So I'm in favor of same-sex marriage. I think if you just have to accept it, it's the law now. If it's keep it out of the church, as I say, if that's your belief. It's not the same thing. And everyone, if you're saying biblical marriage, then that's in your church. But legally, I don't think these people have much of a case to make.
Now, I know you're here because Rick's spying tonight.
He certainly is.
But I know there's another reason for it. I'd like to share with the audience.
Was what he requested. Yeah, actually, I just want to mention that I have an album that just came out, and I discussed this, and when the Supreme Court made their decision, I said, well, you know, let's have people hear what I have to say about it. So I made the track that discusses that for my comedy album. It's free. You go to my Twitter account, twitter.com/Joe DeVito Comedy. You can listen to it on Spotify, and hope if you're on either side, I believe you will still laugh.
Okay. So. Rick asked, "Where's the vinyl album?" I said,
"Well, no, I'm
brought an
listening
8-track
right
for
here."
you.
So Joe makes a really good point.
Which one?
Seriously, where was Mike Huckabee when no-fault divorce came into being? Where was all this civil disobedience? Where were the bakers who said, "You're divorced, get out of my store"? Right? Well, none of them were there for no-fault divorce, and that, as I understand, and I'm no religious expert to be sure, but that is as much of a violation of church laws.
There was a lot of prejudice against divorced people in this country for a long, long time.
Really?
We've only had one divorced president, I would remind you.
Do you know any judge, by the way, who ever refused to divorce somebody?
The real story that we're moving on towards is going to be whether or not Christians who have sincere religious beliefs are going to be allowed to express them. There's a baker in Oregon right now who's been fined $135,000 because they didn't bake a cake for a gay wedding. Now, the labor commissioner has actually issued a gag order saying they cannot discuss the reason for this, and because it's rooted in their religious beliefs. It is a blatant violation of the First Amendment. Gay marriage is a separate issue, but when you're trying to literally enforce a new cultural code, I think you're stepping on the Constitution in a way that the Supreme Court hasn't even begun to address.
Here's the question, and by the way, I have stood up for those people in Oregon. I agree with you completely. What they're doing there is ridiculous. It's outrageous. However, don't you have to question that baker if that baker did not take a similar position with divorced people, or a wedding where two divorced people were getting married? Why are they okay making a cake for that when it violates their religion, but not the gay couple?
I think the Bible treats some of those subjects somewhat differently if you actually read it.
I don't know that.
You know, I don't think it matters though. I think that's their call to make. I mean, I think it's also we're talking about national politics via cakes. What about the gluten-free people? How come we're not discussing their
Makes a
needs?
great point. Anyway, one last point to share. Conservative Congressman Steve King is working on a non-binding resolution condemning the Supreme Court ruling. Every major Republican candidate has come out against the Supreme Court ruling, including Mike Huckabee. Here's what he said on CNN.
I would believe that Jesus would approve.
Heterosexual marriage is largely in trouble today because people see it as a selfish means of pleasing self rather than a committed relationship in which the focus is upon meeting the needs of the partner. And that sense of selfish...
I don't even know what he said.
Okay.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, it was pretty absurd.
Complete candor. All right. Well, more Daily Wraps. Stick around.